Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. Today's topic will be on being yourself, a bit more in depth. Obligatory disclaimer. Remember, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Everybody's at a different spot in their journey. Some things may be relevant for you now and maybe not now. So maybe in the later or just not on your path. So be sure to keep that in mind. A recap on things we can know for certain. I am, everything is here and now. All is the one and one is all. What you put out is what you get back, and change is the only constant, aside from the other laws. For those of you not in the WhatsApp group, I shared some videos this week and a resource on change and how we can look into facing change in everyday life, addressing any fears, that sort of thing. And also a spiritual interview where it stresses the importance of being open. If the person hadn't been open, they wouldn't have had their spiritual experience. So there's a sort of counterintuitive mode of operating for spirituality is if you are in the state of believing, that'll be allowing you to see when we normally say that seeing is believing. So that's an important one to sort of open up and allow yourself to experience. If we have any progress from those in chat, feel free to unmute now and let me know. Let everybody else know how good you're doing. If not, we'll go ahead and continue on to the recap of what we've gone through. We understand what we are not, our thoughts, beliefs, emotions, false structures. We understand that we can use permission slips as things to help us be more of our true selves. These things are things like rituals, beliefs, systems, tools, objects. We understand some ways that negativity can slip into our lives, the way we talk, the way we think, how we view things, our definitions. They all impact the experience that we provide ourselves. And we came to understand what sort of positive things are around us in our everyday lives, why we could be applying positivity, what reinforcements there are. And then we came to understand everything is here and now and the importance of presence. There's only the here and now, so ruminating or stressing about the future put energy elsewhere instead of the current experience. We came to understand all that is, everything everywhere all at once. Came to understand karma and frequency, karma not as a judgment system, but as a reflection of what you're putting out, kind of a guidance system. Came to understand more about love and unconditional love, and really being the main frequency of the universe that we experience. And we came to understand synchronicity and its role in the orchestration of our reality. So we'll go ahead and go into our grounding meditation and get us more open for the topic at hand. Going into the meditation, go ahead and visualize a space that feels safe and relaxing. And you may use the image on the screen if you feel like it. So let's start by allowing our awareness to drop down into our bodies. Feel your feet on the ground, your legs beneath you, and feel the weight of gravity gently pulling you inward into yourself. There's no pressure, no expectation, just presence. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel the inhale like roots drawing energy into you. And feel the exhale like letting go of anything unnecessary. With each breath, you feel yourself more fully here, more fully you. Let go of needing to perform. Let go of trying to be anything. There's no version of you that you need to be right now, except the one that is here. And allow yourself to imagine feeling the tension around your identity begin to soften. All labels, roles, expectations dissolve for now. Say silently to yourself, I don't need to be anything, I just need to be. And allow yourself to notice who is here when there is no story. Who is breathing when you don't try to breathe? Who is witnessing this moment? This is the self before the structures, before the layers, before the world told you who to be. This is the unshakable truth of your being. It cannot be harmed. It does not need fixing. It only needs remembering. As you rest in the space, gently say to yourself, whatever within me is not truly me, you may loosen. Whatever I'm holding that I don't need, you may fall away. No need to dig. Just let the false dissolve into the presence of the real. And with every exhale, feel a soft unraveling, a dropping of masks, a release of control. Good. Now you should be grounded for the rest of the presentation. Today's presentation will be returning to this list of the best methods of addressing false structures, focusing on being your true self and being authentic. as a source of addressing false structures, which may seem circular, but that's where it gets its power through a bit of paradox. So things we want to address in attempting to return to your true self, there are common patterns that we may wait for, such as wanting to find yourself before living, when we truly find ourselves by living. So there's often cases where people sit in stagnation, fearful or unsure of moving forward, when their path is to experience without any plan, experience with that unsure part of the self that's giving up control. So we want to understand that the true self is dynamic and expressive, not static. If we come across that stagnation, we have to look within ourselves and really understand that the true self is being halted at some level by some internal structures, false structures that are afraid to confront something, right? You have a false structure trying to protect you by creating stagnation. You know, if you don't go out, you don't won't get hurt, that kind of thought pattern, belief system. Life and purpose is revealed through expression, not introspection alone. Introspection is important, for sure, part of what should be done, but many may get trapped in introspection alone when part of life is to just get out there and do what you believe to be aligned as best you can feel out at the moment. And if it's not truly aligned, you'll be guided back into alignment. One thing that can hold people up is trying to become XYZ. Too hard can block the state of being that would allow that in. So this is generally understood as trying to force something. We tend to understand that that sort of situation doesn't typically work out. We're trying to control instead of surrendering to the inbuilt control. We're trying to force outcomes according to our expectations instead of doing the action in order to just do the action, in order to just be without an attachment to those expectations. So some of the blocks we may face when trying to be ourselves, we want to understand that each act of authenticity creates resonance and momentum. So this feedback into why being your true self is a way to address false structures and allows you to be your true self even more. You get resonance and momentum that feed back into the loop. So some things that block us from that, fear of being seen, big one. At some points in your life, you may have been unsafe when you were seen, and that sort of inner protection structure may prevent you from going out to potentially experience that sort of harm again. Same thing with fear of getting something wrong. You may have been harshly judged or experienced negative circumstances when you did something, or may have been doing things well for a long period of time, so much that it built up an identity of a perfectionist, perfect person sort of deal. So in fear of breaking that image, you start to stagnate by attempting less in order to keep that image. That flows into clinging to old identities, really any identity. Remember, identities are created structures. If you've come to know your witness and experience that separation from the false structure self, you'll understand that identities are not you. So clinging to them is clinging to something that's not you, i.e., hold a block. Next, we have waiting to feel ready. This deals with uncertainty. Um, People who feel the need to be prepared or overly prepared for anything they jump into. Typically, when we see successful people, by the normal judgment of society, it's people who just take the leap and learn as they go. And the ones who stagnate are the ones who feel like they need to be 100% prepared for every eventuality. So that prevents them from entering this feedback loop of acting in authenticity because they're preventing any action at all. And then finally, we have the belief that authenticity must be consistent or fully understood. Basically, if I don't know myself, how can I act in alignment, right? Well, we understand that there's no mistakes. There's only opportunities to learn what you don't prefer, right? So by going out to act, you'll naturally find alignment. You'll find, okay, I didn't really enjoy that. It didn't light me up inside. So I'll move on to something else. And then that will guide you to the actions that are aligned for you. We'll come to understand some mechanics of identity here. So identity is a frequency that is stepped into. There's not really a puzzle to figure out. So like our last point here, identity of the witness of your true self. Many people tend to see it as something hard to find. But remember, we're not creating a new persona. We're returning to the self that we were always meant to be. So one analogy is when you're looking to view the original state of some land that has been built on, you don't examine the buildings to come to understand the land, right? The buildings are the false structures that we've created on top of the true self, i.e. the land. So if you are trying to get back to the true self, you would clear out those buildings, and then the land is there with no effort, right? Part of the physics of our reality that goes on is that each aligned choice rewires your nervous system and belief system to be more comfortable, to want to repeat, to want to stay aligned. Right. If your nervous system is only fed by the situations created by your false beliefs, such as fear, then you'll continuously create that feedback loop in your nervous system and belief system, so that your experience is going to stay stuck in those sort of states. There's no change going on to introduce new routes for your nervous system to rewire your brain. So that's why acting in alignment, or at least going out to do new things allows your nervous system to branch out and become more comfortable to eventually find those aligned actions. And it doesn't have to be a bunch all at once. Just small, authentic acts compound your sense of trust with yourself. So you take it at the pace that you require at the time, right? Doing too much all at once at the start tends to result in burnout and general dissatisfaction with the progress you make because you feel overwhelmed, that sort of thing. So the small acts are useful. You have a lot of nervous system pre-structured to not reinforce that as well. So the smaller steps you make to break it up, to make it easier for yourself at the beginning, the easier it'll be to just naturally change without even having to put in much effort. It can be as simple as waking up a minute earlier every day if you're trying to align with a certain wake up time, or one page of a book a day if you're trying to read more and you feel aligned with reading, that sort of thing. Next, we understand resonance from the karma video. Remember, you're always trying to attract, scratch trying, you're always attracting what is aligned for you, but your negative beliefs and false structures keep those things from coming in. So the more you release those false beliefs and negative structures, the more that your resonance will show you that it's attracting those things into your reality and increase that momentum of being your true self. So to see it in a different sort of format, on the left we have blocks and false beliefs and how we're going to reframe them. So if you have the thought that you need to figure out who you are before you can act in alignment, you want to reframe that to understand that being reveals more of who you are. So just acting out can show you who you are versus needing to know who you are before you can act. If you have the belief or fear, what if I mess up? You can reframe that to mistakes refine me. They don't define me. There are no mistakes. Everything is an opportunity to learn. The next one, I'm not ready yet. You can reframe it as readiness is built through action. Understand that feeling not ready is a sort of control mechanism of false structure needing control. If you have the belief that other peoples would judge you for what you're doing, acting in alignment, understand that if it's not for them, they are wanting a false version of you. They're wanting a false reality predicated on who you have been if you're not acting in alignment as your true self. So remember, you create a false persona throughout your life. That's your conditioning, your programming. And what you've built up to this moment is typically predicated upon that programming. So if you have a mound built up that's a bunch of not you, and you clear it out so that it's only you left, whatever remains is truly meant for you, and whatever falls away is, we can say, not meant for you because it was based off of the false you. That's from the last presentation, still sitting around in here. So now we have a bit of advanced spirituality to keep in the back of your mind, but not necessarily apply right now, today, or in the near future. It is more for the late stages of self-work, of spiritual advancement, but it's important to understand that this is an option, that this is sort of the end goal um, when we're doing things like therapy, shadow work, that sort of thing. So we'll want to remember that false structures are not broken parts of you. They are constructs, not core parts of the self. They are built on conditioning, fear, ego identity, or defense mechanisms, and sometimes trying to heal them can reinforce them, still engaging with them as if they are real. This is a big point. If you understand visualization, if you understand or have done any shadow work, sometimes you can connect to those structures that we use as permission slips to become more of our true selves as part of real structure, as something that is more aligned. However, remember that that sort of part of ourself is a structure of its in its own right, right? So one example is if you say, I must heal my inner critic, it validates that there's a critic inside of you as part of your structure. So once we've done a lot of work, we want to eventually realize that this structure itself can be removed and say something like, this critic never belonged to me. It's not a wounded part of me, but a fictional structure. So the critic served its purpose at one point, but towards the end, we want to be able to collapse that, dismiss that, not as a dismissal of our experience, but as a end stage part of our healing. There's a concept known as looping. It can occur from operating within the false structures, which feeds the loop. So, like I said, if you continue to validate you have an inner critic, that feeds the loop and prevents the final collapse from happening. Shadow work, inner child work, and therapy can themselves become bypasses from the final healing phase, from that final loop collapse, if they are only used to maintain ego stories. So that involves attachment to your identity from the self that you've created, from your past, those sort of things. And healing can become a ritual of identity reinforcement, not liberation. A short, simple example is healing itself. Saying, I am healing validates that you are in the state of needing to be healed. Right? You can replace that right here. I must heal validates that you must heal and can be a looping ritual that reinforces experiences that cause you to need to continue to heal. So the final goal of spiritual healing and self-realization is to become more of the true self by dissolving, integrating, collapsing, a bunch of different names for this final work. The false structures at some point when you're ready, when they've served their purpose. And we have to look at the meta actions as potentially upholding the false structures to be aware that we're possibly keeping us in a state of needing healing, in a state of needing help, in a state of needing to heal trauma, that sort of thing. Well, I've defined structure a few quite a early on in the series, so we'll redefine it here just to make sure we have a good definition. Structure is a belief, identity, or energetic posture or emotional reflex that holds together a version of the self. So negative ego, your identities, etc. Identity labels, saying you're a people pleaser, creates that structure of people pleaser within you. Emotional addictions, need for validation of experience, suffering, being the helper. Even if I call myself a teacher, that's creating a structure that's false. So I'll use saying I'm a teacher or spiritual guide to people, but just for people to understand that's sort of the role I'm helping them with, but it's not a true definition of my core self. My core self is the witness, right? Traumatic imprints interpreted as the self are structures. You know, people can become attached to their trauma, use it as an identity, and live their lives in the state of sort of victimhood. So that's a structure that we want to be aware of as something to dissolve eventually, and somatic holding patterns. So that's within the body. If you don't know what somatic work is, um, as part of our structure in physicality, we can store emotions in the body, but that itself, remember, we are not our body. We are not our emotions. So that's two systems coming together that are forming an experience, but it's not part of our true self, our true structure. So what do we mean by collapse and integration? We want to deconstruct the parts of our false self through, you could call it dismissal, dissolvement, collapse, integration, but the end result is freedom to act as your true self without the hindrance of false structures getting in the way. You can let false parts dissolve instead of endlessly revisiting them through incomplete resolution. We've talked about the looping tendency in healing, where you think you've healed everything related to some aspect, but then you find 3 months later something triggers you and same sensations are coming back that you thought you healed. That's because you're still in the cycle of the loop that you haven't completely dissolved yet, and that you haven't completely integrated. And so when we say collapse, it's collapsing that loop, and it does not mean destruction through force. Remember, integration work is loving, is compassionate. We're showing those parts of ourselves that they've done their job, that we appreciate what they've done for us, give them what they need. And if you fully deal with that part of yourself in the correct manner, you can dissolve that loop completely so that it never needs to be revisited again, at least in this life. And this involves withdrawing of belief, attention, and participation. So that sort of identity that keeps it alive. Once you've healed enough, you can fully withdraw without it being a spiritual bypass. And this includes disidentifying with conditions, including diagnoses. Remember, reality is illusory, including the body, mind, thoughts, beliefs. Even spiritual structures like chakras are still structures removed from the truth at a different level, at a higher level, right? The chakras, the subtle bodies are created for this experience. So even they will be removed either at death or when we're no longer going to be incarnating physically. And then it goes back up into the soul level. And the souls are structures created by source. So at different levels, there's different levels of structure. All right, so what are some of the practices that we can begin to look into towards this final step of healing is to notice the structure itself. When you feel something, is that actually true? Remember, your feeling, your experience is based on your perception, based on your beliefs. So work it out within yourself. What do I have to believe for this feeling to exist within me? And if that were to be changed, would I still feel the same thing? And you can make this as ridiculous as you want. Completely remove yourself from the situation if you feel like it. And you may notice that, say, if you removed yourself off planet and you replay the situation mentally, well, there's no way for that to affect you anymore, right? That shows you without a doubt that that experience is based off of beliefs that can change. So it's not a true experience from your core self. It's a experience predicated by your false structures. The next practice is to withdraw attention. Feelings can arise without you responding to them. You are the witness. A good question here is who is experiencing this feeling? And in some cases, that can immediately put you into the witnessing mode and have you in that state of stillness, noticing that it's a feeling sensation within your body that is not part of you. Next practice is embodied surrender. You can allow the nervous system, which is a structure, it's a more physical structure, still a structure, to settle while doing nothing to reinforce any roles. So this is a practice more on the advanced side. It's to sit there and purposely allow a situation to unfold that you would normally be very, well, doesn't have to be very uncomfortable, but it would be uncomfortable for you to normally go through that situation without taking action. So one example of this really easy is if you're always answering your phone, but you've set aside time to do meditation or walk in nature, is to allow your phone to go off without looking at it, without responding to it. And that tempers your nervous system to say, okay, you'll be safe even if you allow this thing to happen. And also transform that into your witness self, allowing that to occur without you going with your identity, without needing to control the situation from the ego perspective. Next, really final stage healing is drop the story, drop all connection to any definitions, your past. And when you experience a sensation, observe any urges without narration, right? Sit with it. This is what we mean by sitting with the situation, sitting with the feelings, sitting with the urges that allow you to process them without storing them negatively so that they build up in the false structures, right? So having a sense of healthy disconnection from those false structures by allowing those to just exist without interaction. And this is a practice here that we can do at any time. When you notice yourself acting in alignment, and we know these by experiencing things such as joy, love, peace, the high frequency experiences, really feel those frequencies, feel that tuning, because they are representative of our true self at the core structure level. So really resonating and practicing recalling those situations, recalling those sensations so that it feeds back into your experience loop. A bit of recap on true structure is the stillness of the witness, the presence and awareness of all that's going on around you without intense focus on any one thing. You have impulse free, just knowing. You have love without grasping, unconditional love and compassion. You have expression without effort. You just do in a state of flow. Time collapses. We generate less time when we are doing things that we love or are more aligned with our true selves. This can be anything like meditation, dancing, having fun, any sort of thing where you think to yourself, wow, it feels like it's been 4 hours, but oh no, it's the opposite way. uh, when you feel like it's been 30 minutes, but it's actually been 4 hours where you collapse that time. Natural guidance or gnosis comes in, you just know things because the true self has that guidance from the higher self, from your guides, angels, etc. And you have a sense of oneness, returning to all that is in a true dissolution of false structures that aren't trying to pull your attention away from your witness self, your stillness, your presence. So some more examples on structures that we can use to identify similar things within ourselves. If you say, I'm learning to love my wounded inner child, which is itself a false structure that's created, it keeps that structure of wounded child alive. In the final stages, after the wounded child has done its work, you've worked enough with that wounded child, you can move on to no longer needing that child, that wounded inner child, to collapse that loop and withdraw your attention from the story, allow your inner state to reveal its natural nature, which doesn't have the story of the wounded child. This next one deals with things like diagnoses. If you say, I have anxious attachment or ADHD, something to that effect, that's an identification with a psychological story. So you move past that by seeing your self-definition as energetic echo. You see that story as an energetic echo, not you. Remember, we aren't invalidating our experience, but the experience is within the holographic structure of reality, right? It's not your true self. And if you say something like, I'm trying to be authentic, there's a performance-based spiritual ego behind that. And the true core structure allows silence and expression to emerge naturally. There's no trying, there's no effort. You're just allowing yourself to be. And that's all for today's presentation. If you want to stick around for the meditation that's up next, do we have any questions in chat at the moment? No, I'll go ahead and start with the meditation. Thank you all for joining who are not joining the meditation. All right, if you can attempt to recall the grounded state we had before, go ahead and do so. Make sure you're comfortable and relaxed. We'll be taking a journey inward, not to change yourself, but to remember yourself. You can let your eyes close or gaze at the screen and let your breath find its natural rhythm. Then allow the external world to soften. And with each exhale, imagine the surface layers of your core, the layers that have been built up. Imagine them melting away. Any noise, any pressure, any masks. You don't have to become anything else. The only thing you ever need to do is be yourself. Let's start with a body scan, starting with your feet. Notice the contact with the earth. And gravity holds you. Feel that support. Now let's move our awareness up through our legs. Through our calves. If you feel any tension, allow your next breath to release it. Through your hips. Into your spine. Up your back. Up to your chest. Into your shoulders. Into your neck. On your face. To the crown of your head. And as we reach the crown of our head, imagine a soft beam of light coming from above, connecting you to something greater, not separate from you, but of you. Nice deep breath. And say to yourself internally, I am here. I am returning to my true self. Now gently bring your mind to the roles you play in life. It can be teacher, partner, leader, helper. Any identity you've worn often. Observe how this role feels in your body. Is there contraction, expectation, pride, fear? Take a moment to understand how this role is not you. Really feel the separation and circumstances that led to this role being adopted. Now I want you to envision this role as a cloud. Allow it to drift off. into the sky. It doesn't have to disappear, but you can see the role that's separate from you, something you don't have to be, because it's not you. And repeat to yourself silently, I notice, but I don't need to fix. I witness, but I don't attach. This is awareness without effort. The you beneath identity. Now imagine you're standing in front of a wall. This wall is made of everything you believed you have to be. Strong, smart, perfect, useful, nice, in control, protector, provider. You may recognize these bricks as built from fear or survival. It served you once. Now go ahead and place your hand on the wall. Feel it. Let's go ahead and thank it for how it served us. As we take our next few breaths, go ahead and ask yourself, what of this wall is not me? What can fall away now? And with each breath, one brick loosens, a crack forms, and a little light shines through. Let go of any need to tear it down. Just let your presence dissolve it effortlessly. You are not what you defend. You are not what you pretend. You are what remains when the pretending ends. Each brick is an act. How many of them still serve you? Now let's pull away from the wall and direct our awareness into our heart center. Now down just below the rib cage into your solar plexus. And you see a small golden flame there. This flame has always been there. It was there before the roles, before the trauma, before the masks, before the world taught you what to be. Flame is your essence. It is warm but not burning, bright but not blinding, silent but full of knowing. Now breathe as though stoking that flame, letting it gently grow. Not to impress, not to perform, but to exist. This sense of life force is you, unmasked, unapologetic, unshakable. Let it rise. Unhindered by the false structures, the stories, the identities we've attached to. Allow it to infuse your whole body. Let it reach your mind, quieting the need to figure things out, to control. Let it reach the heart, melting self-judgment, any social standards you hold to that don't serve you. Let it fill your belly, untying those knots. That fear that keeps you from experiencing your true self. Repeat to yourself slowly, silently. There's nothing I need to be. I only need to allow myself to be. I release who I am not, and I remember who I am. There is nothing missing. There is nothing broken. There's only the process of releasing the false so the truth can breathe. Spend a couple minutes with our breath, releasing who we are not, remembering who we are. There's nothing missing, nothing broken. Just us being. Now, as we wind up this meditation, go ahead and place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. And say to yourself silently, I return to the world as myself. Not an idea of me, not a version of me, but the presence of me. And feel free to stay here till the Zoom call ends. I'll leave it on for you guys. Thank you all for joining. Love you all. Have a good week.